Hi guys, hello beautiful people. Happy New Year. Happy new 2025 year. I'm so excited to be at your faces today. It's really been a minute. But I'm giving myself a promise to be, more consistent on my YouTube channel this year. And that is because I feel like, there's so much that God, wants us to know. There's so much that it's important for us to know, just so that we can grow, so that we can be better versions of ourselves and all of that beautiful stuff. And so this is me saying Happy New Year. If this is your first time watching my channel, where have you been? You've missed. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for coming. This is a channel basically where we learn, unlearn, relearn everything about faith, family, lifestyle, and everything in between. And so I feel like we should kick off the year with some of the things that I feel like are basic and important and determine like how far or how well we go in life, right? And so in this video we're going to be discussing how to build a prayer life. Now this is a topic that I've come to witness that is really a challenge for people, and that's because we have like some some mountains we have created in our minds, in our subconscious, as to what prayer should look like, what prayer should be, why is it important. I think these are like some of the questions that I've gotten to hear from a couple of people. And I feel like it's important that we talk about some of these things, because these are things that will form like the bedrock of how well we do, or how far we go in 2025, right? So without much ado, I want us to get right into it. I decided that I wouldn't want our videos to be excessively long. I know I have a lot of promised part two videos that I'm yet to put out there, but I'm believing and trusting God that the grace will be manifold and enough for me this year, to be able to push out videos as much as possible. So what I just try to do spontaneously now is, the moment I get that nudge and inspiration, I just set off my ring light. I'm able to steal out 10 minutes, 20 minutes, to do this. So this video essentially, or these videos going forward, I wouldn't want them to be more than 10 minutes max, right? 10-15 minutes max. So what is prayer? What then is prayer? I think when the use of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable, right? So prayer is like a dialogue with God, but contrary to what we are used to, it's like a monologue. So most times, it's just you talking yada yada yada, and you expect God to be doing all the listening and then jotting down like everything you're saying and say, oh, okay, I'm going to do this for my child, I'm going to do this for him or her. But prayer is actually a dialogue. It's a time when we connect with God. It's a time when we talk to God. Because why did God even make us in the first place? I think that is why that is like part of like what we are supposed to know. So why did God even make man in the first place? God made man for the sake of fellowship, right? God wants us to be fellowshipping with him. It's his desire that everything we do aligns with his purpose, and in the midst of aligning with his purpose, we are supposed to have like a consistent fellowship with him, because there's no purpose outside of our fellowshipping with God. So God expects, sorry, I'm just trying to turn off my laptop. So God expects that we fellowship with him continually, right? That is why he made us in his own image and likeness. So prayer is like a channel, with which we fellowship with God, with which we communicate with God, with which we address issues, with which we channel, with which we fellowship with God, with which we communicate with God, with which we address issues, with which we stand on our authority. Yeah, I think that's the right word. With which we stand on our authority. It's a channel with which we express ourselves, our love for God, and all of those beautiful things. So prayer is actually a dialogue between man and God, and then a channel for fellowshipping with God. So now we've understood what prayer is. Why is prayer important, right? And how should prayer be? Is prayer supposed to be in a certain kind of way, and all of that? So with my little years of work with God, I've come to realize that um, it's good to have like a structured pattern when it comes to prayer, right? I mean, God is a God of order and structure, right? But what now happens when you find yourself in a very, life can be very busy, especially when you're adulting. So in a very busy situation, maybe your career, you're a nursing mother, how do you keep like your prayer altar burning, like, and keep that consistent fellowship with God ongoing? So I'm just going to be sharing a few tips of some of what helps me, and I hope that this can help you too. We are constantly a work in progress, but I feel like I can always come out there to share like what we know, what we've learned, what has worked for us. You never can tell who might need that information, just to move their life to the next level, their physical, spiritual life to the next level. So one of the tips that have helped me is having a routine, right? So it's always important that you get up and talk to your maker. Like, at every time you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is talk to God. So I know there are some people who have like all of the time. I think it even works much more for single people, who are not always like so much in the midst of a scattered routine the way a mom would be. So when you wake up in the morning, you have your quiet time for like 10-15 minutes, and then you get off bed. Maybe in your quiet time you can say a few words of prayer and all of that, and then you get off bed and start your day activities. But for a mom who is always shuttling in between activities, right, and your routine, it might not be so structured as you expect, it's always important that the moment you wake up in the morning. So for me, for example, what I do is the moment I wake up in the morning, I say a word of prayer, right? I don't necessarily mean that I'm taking out maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes to study the word or have like my quiet time, but I know that I don't get out of my bed without saying, oh Father, thank you for yet another day. Just acknowledging God and letting him know that, oh, I feel you, I feel your presence. Thank you, because you're the one who has brought me into a new day. That for me, and I know it's that for me is actually prayer, and I know it's like that for so many other moms, like I said, out there, right? So wake up in the morning, ensure that you're able to acknowledge God, as your helper, as the one who has brought you into yet another day, right? And then you can start up little by little with your morning routine and be praying alongside. That's what I do basically. So I do not have like so much stretch of time in the morning, because I'm getting out of bed. The next thing I'm thinking about is how to probably prepare my kids for school and all of that. So I've said the word of prayer, I've communicated to God at that time. Then by the time I get up and then I'm going about my daily routine, I'm praying alongside, right? I'm praying alongside. My children are being carried along with the prayer, and we're praying alongside. That's what like a regular day is like for me. Then by the time I probably drive them to school, they're out of my way now, and then I'm back to work. In between my work schedule, I take out 5-10 minutes like that just to pray to God, connect. I could be praying in tongues, right? I could be praying in my understanding. But what is very important is, as you pray, as your heart connects to God, make sure that you are in a state of quietness to be able to receive. Because like I said, prayer is communication. So as you're talking to God, he's talking back at you. He's telling you things that are very important. So let me give an instance. I hear people a lot say, oh, I don't know how God speaks to me. I don't know how God speaks to me. And I think it also now gets very confusing, because we've had like a lot of fathers in the faith that say, oh, I heard God's voice audibly, or I heard, and all of that. So I think it takes like your level, in your growth and your work with God, to be able to say, okay, you're hearing the voice of God audibly. But for me, what works, and I know that this is what it is God speaking to me, is I hear the instructions in my heart. So let's say I'm going, in my regular day activities, and then in between I take like 5-10 minutes, I just pray. I can pray my own understanding, pray in tongues, right? And I get to a point where I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm confused as to how to take a decision. Take a certain decision, I don't know what to do. The Spirit of God tells me in my heart. I feel like God tells me in my heart what to do. And oftentimes when I follow that directive that is placed in my heart, everything comes out fine, right? Then I've come to realize that days when I'm not very super conscious about taking out time breaks in between to communicate with God, when God is trying to lay an instruction in my heart, especially when I'm confused about a certain issue, I don't get that clarity. There'll always be this hassle between my own thoughts and what God wants me to do, right? So do you see why prayer is very important? Because prayer gives you that posture before God to be able to hear God, right? So the moment you are conscious that, okay, God is my source, I am nothing outside of him. So at every time you're running back to God to say, hey God, I know you're there, how are you doing, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying that at every point you're acknowledging God, you're communicating with God. You can be in your own language, you can be in your own understanding, you can be in tongues, and God feels that fellowship is, God sees that fellowship is continuous. Like you say that, God, oh, you're the vine, I'm your branch, I can't do nothing outside of you, because that is the way God perceives prayer, right? That's like fellowship to God. So once that is in place, subconsciously you carry the presence of God. And so when God is telling you things, because like I said, prayer is a dialogue. You talk to God, he talks back to you. You talk to God, he talks back to you, right? And when you keep going on with your daily activities and something pops up, you're in a situation or you're in a dilemma where you don't know what to do, you always hear God. You always hear that still voice. It could be audible, you should go into that level, or it could be in your heart, right? It's just very important that you know how God speaks to you, right? So these are like some of the ways you can build a habit of prayer and grow in prayer, because honestly prayer is very important in our day-to-day life and activities. So this is just like I'm just giving an instance as to what works for me, and then I feel like there are certain times when prayers are usually more effective. You can pray at any time actually, and God would hear you, because he never gave us like a restriction as to when to pray, but because like there are times of the day when there is less activities, rather it's easier to be able to connect to heaven, to be able to connect to God, to be able to declare what you want to declare and be focused at what you're doing, which is prayer. So there are hours that are called watch hours. So that's like from the hour of 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., 9 p.m. to 12 midnight, 12 midnight to 3 a.m., 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. These are very good time for prayer. So for me as a mom, what makes me not very structured is because most of the time I have to get up at night to pray. I find it more peaceful, I find it more serene, I find it more comfortable. Okay, not necessarily comfortable, because actually not comfortable, because it's like sacrificing some part of the night sleep, but I find it more refreshing, I find it more soothing, I find it more connecting for me to pray at that time. So a lot of people know that night prayers are very good and very effective. So I have a routine of how my night prayer goes in a week. So, and that's why, because after my night prayer, I want to catch maybe a few hours of sleep. That's why my morning, when I wake up in the morning, I cannot be so much into, okay, I want to read my Bible, or I want to spend like 30 minutes doing a quiet time, right? Because that has been done like in the middle of the night, because that is the time that works better for me. And I think that is actually a very good time to pray, right? We see in the scriptures a lot of times where Jesus spent the whole night, just praying. So the Bible recounted in some places in Luke that Jesus takes out every given time he finds to pray, right? He takes out time at every given time to pray. But the Bible also accounted that there were a lot of times when Jesus spent the whole night praying, right? Because the nighttime is like a calmer time, a serene time. And even the people on the other side, right, when they want to do the evil that they do, when they want to perpetrate evil that they perpetrate, they do it in the night. So that's to tell you that the nighttime is actually a very sensitive time, in the realm of the spirit. So this is, essentially what works for me. I hope this video has blessed you. I hope you have been able to take something from this video, which is the two basic things I wanted to communicate: what prayer is, why prayer is important, and the three basic things I wanted to communicate, rather, what prayer is, how to pray, and why prayer is important. So thank you very much. If you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up for me, and you can also share to anyone, your friends, family, loved ones who you think that will be who you think that this video will benefit, or you think that this video will be beneficial to them. I would really appreciate it. And then if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please hit the subscription button so that every time I come online you will be informed. Till I come your way again, thank you very much, and bye for now.